Iaijutsu, often simply called Eishin Ryu, is Japan's oldest and most popular style of Iaido. Iaido, or Iaijutsu, is the 450-year-old art of samurai swordsmanship in face-to-face combat and is characterized by its quick-draw techniques. The Nippon Kobudo Jikishinkai, headed by 20th successive Grandmaster Miura Shihan, is the organization dedicated to teaching and promoting this art. It is represented in America exclusively by the Nippon Kobudo Jikishinkai USA and worldwide by the Nippon Kobudo Jikishinkai International, both of which are chaired by Shimabukuro Shihan. This series by Panther Video is the first ever to present the complete Eishin Ryu system. To get the most benefit from this tape, we suggest that you first watch Volume 7, Interview with Master Shimabukuro, to familiarize yourself with the nomenclature of the sword and the history of the style. On this occasion, I wish to express my appreciation to Panther Video for making this video series available to introduce you to Muso Jikiden Eishin Ryu Iaijutsu. My name is Masayuki Shimabukuro. I have been training under the 20th Grandmaster of Eishin Ryu, Miura Shihan, for approximately 20 years. It is my hope that you will enjoy this tape and find it helpful in your training and improvement in Iaijutsu. Ipponme, Yokogumo. Yokogumo begins in Tatehiza posture. The sequence of Yokogumo is very similar to Seizamae from the Chuden Waza. Nukizuke, Furikaburi, and Kirioroshi, then Eishin Ryu Chiburi, followed by Noto. Then rising after Noto is completed, maintaining iaigoshi, or a balanced, level position, and stepping back to the original starting position. The Tatehiza posture found in the Chuden Waza was used by samurai when they were resting while wearing armor. Bunkai for Yokogumo is also similar to that of Seizamae. One opponent straight ahead, using Nukitsuke to slice across the eyes, and then Kirioroshi. Nihonme, Tora no Issoku. From a Tatehiza posture, use Nukitsuke to block in front of the right leg, then Furikaburi and Kirioroshi. During Noto, the front foot slides slowly back at about the same rate that the sword is being placed in the scabbard, then circles around to the right where the heels nearly touch. Remember to always step back with the left foot first when moving back to the original starting position. Bunkai for Tora no Issoku is against a single attacker. The attempted cut to the leg is blocked, followed by Kirioroshi. Sambome, Inazuma. To sit in Tatehiza posture, the left heel is placed between the cheeks of your behind so that you're equally balanced. In Inazuma, Nukitsuke is used to strike upward at the right side, followed by Furikaburi and Kirioroshi, and Eishin Ryu style Chiburi and Noto. In Chuden Waza, the no-to begins more quickly than in Shoden, but still ends slowly and smoothly. Bunkai for Inazuma involves a single attacker coming from the front. Nukitsuke cuts the arm of the attacker to prevent the attack, followed by Kiryoroshi. Yonhonmei, Ukigomo. Ukigomo begins turned 90 degrees to the left. And finishes turned 45 degrees to the right of the beginning position. Rise and turn the sword a half circle counterclockwise, then a full circle clockwise while drawing. Kiryoroshi is performed at a 45-degree angle, followed by Eishin Ryu style Chiburi and Chuden type no-to. After the first strike, be sure not to pull the sword back before slashing to the right, and be sure to move under the sword rather than raising it overhead before performing Kiryoroshi. Bunkai for Yamaoroshi involves a single opponent, but complicated by other people in the area. As the opponent attempts to grab the sword, you pull away, dodging the other people so that you don't become entangled in them as you strike and defeat the opponent. Gohonmei, Yamaoroshi. Yamaoroshi begins turned 90 degrees to the left side. And finishes turned 90 degrees from the original starting position toward the right. Turn 45 degrees and strike to the face with the tsukagashira, then draw. Don't move the sword before slashing to the right. then slide underneath and perform Kirioroshi. The waza finishes facing straight ahead, having turned a first 45 degrees during Nukitsuke and an additional 45 degrees to the right to perform Furikaburi and Kirioroshi. Bunkai for Yama-oroshi involves a single opponent. Use a clockwise circular movement of the tsuka to avoid the opponent's attempt to grab the handle of the sword. Then draw and make an initial cut, slicing through the opponent, Furikaburi, and then Kirioroshi to finish. Dopponme, Iwanami. Iwanami begins turned 90 degrees to the right. Step back with the left foot while beginning the Nukitsuke. Then use the left hand to guide the Kisaki towards the opponent while performing a thrust. Always maintain iai-goshi, or a level stance, at the completion of every waza. As you complete Nukitsuke, use 2 quick stomps to break the opponent's rhythm. Then be sure not to move the sword to the left before slashing sideways. Bunkai for Iwanami involves a single opponent seated to your left. As you sense the opponent preparing to attack, turn quickly and thrust to the solar plexus. Be sure to slide underneath the sword during furikaburi, rather than simply raising it overhead. Nanahome, Uroko Gaeshi. Uroko Gaeshi begins facing 90 degrees to the right. Uroko Gaeshi is essentially the same technique as Seiza Migi, but done in Tatehiza posture. Be sure to exhibit strong spirit towards the opponent while turning. The right foot should come heel to heel with the left foot at the same time that the tsuba meets the left hand. In Chuden Waza, the opponent is often closer than in Shoden Waza, so often you step back rather than forward during Nukitsuke. Bunkai for Uroko Gaeshi involves an opponent attacking from your left side. To maintain a proper cutting distance, you must move away from the opponent while performing Nukitsuke, then step in for Kirioroshi. Hachihome, Namigaeshi. Namigaeshi begins facing backward. As you draw the third breath, be sure to turn your head and look over your shoulder to make eye contact before turning and stepping away during Nukitsuke. Remember that Chuden Noto begins a little quicker than Shoden Noto, but ends slowly with Zanshin, with the heels coming together as the tsuba meets the left hand. Be sure to rise to the balls of the feet when beginning to turn. Bunkai for Namigaeshi involves an opponent seated close behind. In order to avoid the attack, as well as have proper cutting distance, you must step away as you perform Nukitsuke. From the opposite angle, you can see that you must rise to the balls of the feet in order to make the pivot quickly. Kyuhonme, Takiotoshi. Takiotoshi begins facing backward. Be sure to make eye contact over your shoulder on the third breath before beginning this technique. Key points to practice during Takiotoshi are to twist the blade 90 degrees counterclockwise while drawing, and reinforce the tsuka against the bottom of your forearm while thrusting single-handedly. Make a shuffle step forward with the right foot, then left foot while thrusting. Then be sure to pull the blade back slightly before performing Kiryoroshi. Be sure to maintain your eye contact during the entire waza. Bunkai for Takiotoshi involves a single opponent coming from the rear. The opponent grabs the kojiri to prevent you from being able to draw the sword. By thrusting downward and back, you're able to break the opponent's grip by weakening his wrist. Then while he's off balance, thrust to the middle and finish with Kiryoroshi. It's important to react immediately when the opponent grabs the kojiri. Juppon-me, Makko. Makko is the only Seiza Waza in the Chuden series. It begins facing straight forward. Makko looks very similar to Nukiuchi from the Shoden series, except that it is performed faster and uses Chuden Noto. Rise high on the knees while performing Nukitsuke and Furikaburi. Then spread the knees for a strong base while performing Kirioroshi. Bunkai for Makko involves a situation of Joyuchi, or orders from above. You've been instructed to execute an enemy. So when the enemy bows, you quickly draw and perform the execution. A matter of vital importance to the art of Iaijutsu is correct cutting technique. It is cutting technique which sets Iaijutsu apart from other sword-fighting arts, such as Kendo, which develop skill and speed at striking with the blade, but do not train the practitioner to actually cut with a live sword. Although proper cutting technique is not particularly difficult, since the samurai sword was carefully designed and crafted for that very purpose, it does require a thorough understanding of the mechanics of cutting and sufficient practice to become a matter of habit. Essentially, if you hold and swing the sword correctly, its weight, curvature, and balance will cause it to slice almost effortlessly through the target. In a manner of speaking, this begins from the ground up, with proper stance and distribution and transfer of weight throughout the swinging process. Follow-through is accomplished with hip rotation, rather than arm and shoulder strength. A proper grip, squeezing the hands inward like wringing out a wet towel, tsuka no nigiri kata, minimizes any side-to-side motion of the blade, which would not permit it to travel straight. Hasuji o tosu, moving both hands along the same path, also eliminates wiggle or twisting of the blade while swinging. Reaching full extension of the arms and wrists before the blade contacts the target increases the centripetal force, or Eishin ryoku, of the blade, and allows the cutting edge to draw naturally across the target. It has been my pleasure to present this video series on Muso, Jikiden, Eishin ryu Iaijutsu, and I hope it has improved your understanding and your appreciation for